didn't know, I basically started my online journey, like where I started actually posting videos, with a video where I talked about the scariest movies I've ever watched. And it was the first time I've ever like actually been serious about making a video online. It was silly. I made a lot of mistakes in the video, like I fucked up some directors and it was really embarrassing, but it got a lot of views. And then I started making horror content. So that's like where it started. And I was thinking I would do a follow-up to that. I've seen a lot of movies since then, first of all, but second of all, a lot of extreme horror has kind of come up in the mainstream more than it ever has, in my opinion. Like, just being a horror enjoyer, it's come up a lot more. And there's also this conversation of like purity culture and censorship, and I was just really wanting to make a video essay about, first of all, the scariest, most disturbing movies I've ever seen, and then also why it's so bad to try and censor these movies and censor extreme horror in general. First of all, major blanket TW for obviously extreme horror. I'm going to talk about really extreme horror. Not for everybody, obviously, but it's a lot better than actually watching the movie if you're really sensitive. I'm not going to be touching movies that I think are not real movies. By that I mean, some of these extreme horror films are just like actually crimes, or they're made for someone to get their rocks off, and they're not actually movies. Like, you know what I'm talking about if you have watched any of those iceberg videos or at the bottom of the iceberg, and they're genuinely just like illegal to search up, illegal to watch. I'm not going to talk about those. And to be completely honest, if you're somebody who has like morbid curiosity for those kind of films, the ones that I have watched from the like bottom, like the most disturbing movies like that, it gets very old after a while because there is no plot. It's literally just like extreme violence, extreme gore, and then there gets to a point where it's like, why am I watching this? Unless that's your like kink, they get extremely boring, and that's just the honest truth. And by these types of movies, I'm literally talking about movies worse than a Serbian film. A Serbian film is a movie, like, the point of that movie being made was to protest censorship. So if censorship didn't exist, the movie wouldn't exist. Do I think it's good? No. Like, I'm not even going to include it on my list, but I'm not going to talk about anything basically that's not a movie. That's, well, first things first. So in this video, I'm going to include a pretty long list of the most disturbing films I've ever seen. Some of them I've talked about before, but I'm just going to bring it up again. And I'm going to include this little label in the corner that basically describes if this is like a movie you could actually put on, or if it's something that you probably shouldn't watch, even if you really like extreme horror. By that I mean, some of these films you could just put on and it's really entertaining. For like a group of people, it's fine, but then some of them, I don't recommend that. I think the baseline understanding that people have of extreme horror is that it's all just fucked up and horrible, and if you recommend, talk about, or watch these films, you're literally agreeing with violence, when that's not at all what that is. The first extreme movie ever made was literally made in part by Salvador Dali himself. And that's like an extremely respected artist. And that's one of the first like transgressive pieces of media ever made, was from an artist like that. It was a French film, which makes sense because French exploitation is probably the most famous exploitation horror. I'm gonna just put that out there. I do think Australian people don't get enough credit, but that's another conversation. So the movie had this scene of somebody cutting their eye with a razor blade, and the cultural context for it was like, we need to jolt people out of their complacency with like this unfair government and like this unfair situation. We need to jolt people awake. That was kind of the context for what the artists wanted to do. But the directors and artists involved also wanted to make something really shocking. One of the directors carried stones in his pocket at the premiere so that he could throw them at people that were gonna get mad at the movie. But the reception was actually pretty good. It was like better than they were expecting. So why should extremely graphic, horrible, horrifying, borderline illegal movies be allowed to exist? Like, why is that a net positive for society? I think the most important reason why it shouldn't be censored is there's a phenomenon that happens when like people in authority censor extreme horror. That's just one facet of censorship. but what generally happens is a flattening of and censoring of the entire landscape. You can't just censor one part of like human experience and human expression and expect the entire landscape not to become extremely censored as well. And that's the cultural landscape. That's important. Like, you don't realize what you have until it's gone. And I think that is majorly real for being able to experience culture and being able to like feel like what you're seeing in the culture is authentic art and not just like, I don't want to say propaganda, but that's kind of what it becomes when everything is censored. Like, it becomes propaganda. That's what that's what happens. And then when there is censorship laws and like they're really extreme, people making art are going to censor themselves preemptively, and then it just causes this chain reaction where it's very rare to find pieces of art that are authentic. And every time art has been censored in any way, it basically 100% of the time came from like moral discomfort rather than an actual harm to society. It's kind of like when you ban or try to ban really violent video games, that comes from moral discomfort. That doesn't come from a study that shows that violent video games lead people to do violent things. Like, that's not a reason to make laws, is because you feel morally uncomfortable or you feel like it shouldn't exist because of the way that you view the world. Also, kind of less important, but still pretty important, is when you label an extreme horror movie as too obscene to be shown and you censor it, you're seeing that movie in only that way, and any art or like commentary or value it has as a piece of art is immediately put away with. I see this a lot nowadays with people talking about how some movies are just like evil because they're really gory. This happened with Blink Twice. It was really crazy, the amount of people that were condemning it as a horrible movie because it showed really graphic scenes. The minute that they condemned it, they're not seeing that as a piece of art anymore. They're seeing that as bad. And they're saying that the director, writers, and people acting are agreeing with it, and that's why they're doing that kind of violence. When that's not the way that art works. Like, not the way it works. And the mean world syndrome, which is like what happens to people when they start seeing the world in a really bad and violent kind of light and they're scared of the world, often that comes from the news and not from art or horror media. It's usually coming from true crime or it's coming from the news. It's not coming from watching extreme horror movies. Censorship also suppresses marginalized voices first. We're going to talk about a movie that got suppressed really heavily and about this issue, but they're getting censored first. So even in this like society where art is getting banned, those things are getting banned first, and that's obviously problematic and wrong, especially during Pride Month. And last of all, there are ratings for a reason. Platforms and theaters have ratings for a reason. Give people the option. People can discern between art and reality. You can give someone a rating and they will decide whether they want to see it or not. You can even give them a trigger warning, like in Blink Twice. You can warn people and you can make them aware. That is what you do when you have extreme art. Now that I've said my piece on why I think it's wrong to judge these movies I'm going to talk about and to say they need to be censored, I'm going to talk about movies that are very disturbing to me and I'm not just going to put on for fun, if that makes sense. I'm bringing this one back from my original video and I'm going to talk about it again because I just do think more people need to see this anyway. Eyes of My Mother is a film about a woman having the worst life probably imaginable. And it is black and white, but you don't even notice that. I am so annoying because I hate black and white movies. I like color in my movies. I do not like to watch black and white movies, and that's annoying. Like, I know that. But there are a few exceptions to this rule. It's genuinely like if Pearl was extremely disturbing. It has the soul of Pearl. It's like that desperation for love and that like giving your all to every single thing, hoping for that love back, and it just never happens. Life in the world is very cruel. Pearl does that with fame and like wanting to be famous and wanting to be loved and adored. And then Eyes of My Mother does that with just relationships. And then both of them are very, very deeply about womanhood and the sacrifices, especially when you're feeling the pressure to not only be a caretaker, but to basically sacrifice your entire body for the world over and over again. And I don't want to spoil anything other than that, but Eyes of My Mother is genuinely so disturbing in a way that's like dread-inducing and really gory. So I am recommending this one for movie night, but this is the most extreme that movie night's gonna get recommended. Like, I'm not gonna recommend anything more extreme than this for movie night. This almost made it to like, maybe don't watch for movie night, but it is just a beautiful, dreadful movie. If you want to be really depressed, this is the one. Pearl almost feels like a spiritual successor to this one in a way that it's more campy and poppy and fun, and then this one is like dread, like genuinely dread. The next one I'm gonna recommend almost didn't make it on this list. This is probably the lightest of all the films, but I recommended it in my original list and I think it's staying on, and I'm generally desensitized to it because I've watched it so many times, but the gore in this movie is incredible and it's fucked. But Mandy, one of my favorite movies of all time. Obviously, I'm recommending this for movie night, but it is so good and the story's so fantastic you don't realize how fucked up it is. It has a strong metal theme, and if you know anything about metal fans, metal and extreme horror really mesh together very well. It's almost like the most overlapped subculture, I think, that exists in this community is like metal and horror fans. And if you think of metal aesthetics and like the extreme gore and violence of that, Mandy is the movie equivalent to that, and it does not fail at its mission of doing that. The director is just incredible. It's like this phantasmagoric experience. I guarantee you I've recommended this movie to people before, but I'm going to do it a 68th time because it's so beautiful. This is the performance that made me actually fall in love with Nicolas Cage. His acting is just so incredible, and after I watched this movie, I went on like a Nick Cage movie binge because I'm like, this is the best actor that ever existed. Like, how is he so good? It's so freaky. The next one is like a Shudder movie, which is like, I hate to say that, but a lot of Shudder movies, I'm feeling that they're pumping them out pretty fast, and some of them are getting kind of like, that's not that good. Mads is, I think it's a French extreme horror film. Like it belongs in that category to me, but it's a film about zombies, but it's done in a way that is so disturbing. It's almost entirely a continuous shot. It's a drug-induced bender kind of thing, and it's like full of hysteria and kind of a slow descent into total fucking chaos. But I'm recommending this movie because of a specific scene, and it is on this Vespa, and these two girls are on the Vespa. One of them is infected and the other one is not. And the slow turning of, like, the slow zombieing of one of the girls and the way that she's acting is so disturbing to me. It is so unsettling. I just have to, like, it's one of the most disturbing, like, psychological horror scenes I've ever seen in my life. And there's also a lot of crazy gore in this movie, but specifically the dialogue, it's so scary, and I'm recommending it. So Pink Flamingos is the first one on this list that I cannot in my good conscience recommend for movie night. It's hard to really describe the impact that this film had on gay culture. Like, I actually can't even begin to describe to you. When it was made, the director was basically saying, oh, you straight people think gay people are so weird and we're so fucked up. Well, let me show you, like, let me show you that what you think of us. And it's kind of that sentiment, but it's funny and it's so campy and just like really extreme, really gross out, ironic humor, and like so ahead of its time in so many ways. Lots of like graphic, disgusting stuff. Just, it's definitely not a casual watch, but when you do watch it, you can really see how long gay people have been dealing with this shit and how much judgment there has been historically. But then also, it's set up the culture in a way where it's like, I don't care what you think of me. That's like so basic, but it's true. And then I'm gonna be as weird as humanly possible because you are judging me anyway to that extent. And when you watch Pink Flamingos, if you have the stomach for it, it reframes entirely what you thought about gay culture. It's crazy how impactful this one film was. And it's my conspiracy theory that It's Always Sunny took a lot of inspiration from this movie when they were setting up like the McPoyle family. To this day, this film is so influential across all comedy. But unlike every single other movie in this list, this movie, when you watch it like so many years later and you see how funny it is and how humor has evolved inside of the community since then, it's like uplifting in a way because you just feel so connected to people that made a film so long ago, and it just feels like this cultural attitude of like flippance towards judgment is like has been happening for the longest time. Next, I'm going to say that Mad God is one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen, but this one has no dialogue or real story. It's basically a work of art that is just scene after scene of graphic, violent, stop motion animation. Some of it's really disgusting and some of it's really, really horrific and grating, but it took like 15 or 20 years to make, and it was like the love child of so many different artists. And I can't really describe anything other than it's so nauseating and so disturbing, but you can't look away because of the details put into this. Like there's so many little details, little figures, like weird sounds, and it's just the most incredible like stop motion horror film ever. But again, like this is not recommended for movie night for a reason. Like it's extremely disturbing, it's really, really crazy, and it's probably like 3 fucking hours of just stop motion horror. When I recommended this in my original video, I got so many comments after the fact of people being like, I can't believe I tried to watch that. It was like so stupid and it was so boring. But I think it really depends on the type of person you are. Like it's not a big deal if you don't like no dialogue 4-hour-long stop motion movie, but if you do like it, it's worth talking about, and it is really scary. So there's that. So Cannibal Holocaust is kind of the one that everybody talks about when they talk about, oh, it's the tamest of the most disturbing movies. I don't agree. I was so horrified by this film. I can't even describe how much it affected me, and it has like an intended message that I don't know if it really works. Like the message is that these filmmakers go into this indigenous territory and instigate violence by being violent, and then they're trying to film in a way that paints the indigenous tribes as violent and horrible, but the end quote of the movie is like, I don't know who the real cannibals are anymore, because the people, like the white people that went in there, were instigating violence. So the message, it has the right heart, I guess, because it's like, don't go into tribes that you don't know and don't instigate and like take advantage of Aboriginal people. The execution is like so depraved and like full of real animal abuse, which was actually so horrible and disturbing for me. Like it was crazy. And this movie has no excuse for the animal abuse. Pink Flamingos animal abuse, they said that the chickens that were killed in Pink Flamingos were going to get eaten that day, so it makes me feel better. But Cannibal Holocaust, it's like just grotesque, useless abuse. And there are scenes in this where you can tell that it's real, and I think that's what makes this so fucking scary, is like you go into it and you're like, oh, this is from the 80s, like I'm not gonna be scared. There's that fake 80s blood, like whatever. But then it's like real animal abuse, real looks like abuse, crazy realistic practical effects, and you're not sure if this is real or not. And I actually understand why the director got arrested. I never thought I would say that, but I do understand, and I 100% get it. But that aside, the film did bring up something that I didn't really intend to bring up for me that I thought was interesting. And I have to say, baseline, the way that they portrayed Aboriginal people in this is not right. Like, I know that in my heart it's not. But there is this kind of horror of the tribe, and this happens with the camera crew and the Aboriginal people. It's like when you associate yourself with a tribe of people, the people you associate with kind of trap you and imprison you in a way. Like, There's extreme violence that the Aboriginal people do in this film to each other that is like part of their culture, but you just feel like if you were there, you'd be like, I need to get away from this tribe. Like, I'm fucking scared of this tribe. I can't be in here. And that's freaky. But then also with the camera people, there is a scene where the male people of the group are like violently assaulting someone, and the female camera person in the group is like realizing how depraved her tribe is, and she's like getting panicked, even though she's a horrible person, but she's getting panicked and she's like getting angry. And it just made me think, like, there is a horror there of the tribe that you choose to be a part of and like how that traps you. That wasn't that movie's intended message, but that's something I was thinking about. Anyway, don't recommend. I have that sound design stuck in my head, horrifying me, probably till I die. I'm never gonna forget that. Next is The Human Centipede 2. How silly is it that a movie with that name is getting put on my like most scariest movies list? I know, I hated this movie. I hate it. It's not good, but the disgust that it was able to conjure in me, and like, I've never been close to vomiting in my home watching a movie. I was close to vomiting in the substance, but in my own home, in the safety of my own home, have I never been so close to vomiting because of a movie. And I actually can't even believe that this was like a major production because of how depraved and disgusting it is. It's just like disgusting. So this guy is kidnapping people for his human centipede, and like, it is, this movie's black and white, and he is just so gross. I can't even begin to describe to you. He's just like really greasy and gross. His whole body's greasy. But the parts that were fucked up was like when he was sewing the human centipede together, he was like breaking people's teeth. He was feeding them beans. And it was, my eyes are starting to water because he feeds them like laxatives and beans, and like there's like this liquid coming between the people of the human centipede that's like, I think it's poop. I can't even fucking begin to describe to you. Don't recommend for movie night. Horrible movie, but I have to talk about it because it is the most disturbing movie ever. I have to say, it does end with the final girl who has been pregnant this whole time. She escapes, but while she's in the escape car, she has her baby, and she's like, fuck it, I need to leave. And she stomps on the pedal of like the gas, and the baby's it's so dumb, and it's like, it's so stupid, but why'd they make that? Like, I don't even know. But if that's not a test of like free will and freedom of speech, I don't know what is. Like, if that isn't a test on like the society you're in to like, I can do whatever I want, I don't know what is. The next one is going to cause controversy because not a lot of people liked it, but VHS Beyond is one of the scariest, personally most frightening movies I've ever seen. And I want to specifically talk about two of the shorts in this. This is by far the least gory on the list, but I have a fear of aliens. I always have, and that's kind of like my spot where I'm really scared. There is like a final scene in this film, and it is found footage, like all the VHSs are found footage, of an alien encounter that is like what I imagine in my head to be the scariest situation for me to be in my entire life. I would rather get axe murdered, chainsaw murdered, than be in a situation like the last scene of VHS Beyond. Genuinely. And I wouldn't even put this on the list if it also weren't for this other short, people getting turned into dogs by this depraved person who wants to turn people into dogs. And it's a masterclass in body horror, just from the beginning parts of the dread till the actual practical effects and the horrific shit in it. It's just a masterclass. It's horrifying. I think they literally didn't have to do that. Like, it's so scary. But I was like rewatching it because I wanted to rewatch all these films for this video, and I was rewatching it, and I do have to say the first short is very scary as well. Like, there's an alien who's turning people into kind of like zombies, but they're fucking scary. The next one is one that caused lots and lots and lots of controversy when it was really popular online, and it's Mysterious Skin. This isn't the most gory on the list. It isn't even a horror movie, but it's like a psychological horror about CSA and what it can do to your psyche, and two types of ways of coping with that. Do I think that this movie is for everybody to watch? No. But do I think it's important? 100%. When I finished watching it, I felt so horrible, but I also felt like it was so important for me to understand someone else's experience, because I just move through the world differently now. It changes the way that you view so many things. Just when I thought of CSA, I kind of thought of it as like an evil person doing an evil thing, and it was like, it just, in my mind, it was so like black and white, and like it's just something that happens and I don't understand it. And then when I finished Mysterious Skin, I understood that it's someone lining something up. It's someone spending their entire life and all of their free time into doing something horrible. There are so many ways and signs that you can recognize that, and you can stop that before it happens. And it's not something like, it was just something that I just never would think about, because I was like, first of all, disgusted, and like, why would I want to know about that? And then I watched Mysterious Skin, and I felt like I could better protect people in my life and people I see in public when I know what the enemy is doing and I know like what they want. And that's valuable to me, but I'm also pretty mentally tough, so I do not recommend this movie to everybody. Obviously, it's so messed up. It is aesthetically beautiful. The director makes beautiful movies, so this movie's beautiful. But horrifying, tragic, awful, but an example of how extreme movies can be important. Like, they can have a really important message, and they can do something really good, net positive for society. The next one is one that kind of went under the radar for some reason. It's called The Nightingale, and it is like a period piece. It's the same visual style as The Witch, but it's about colonization and the violence of that. And it basically is about an Irish person and an Indigenous person. It is horrific. The violence in this is probably the most violent out of all the movies on this list. This is the most violent movie. Like, I literally can't even begin to warn you. Powerful film about tribe mentality when it comes to violence, and then shared oppression between groups. This one requires like a lot of patience, because it's like almost 3 hours long, but it's 3 hours of like horrific violence and then like sadness. It's so emotionally draining to watch, but I had to put it on this list because it is so horrifying and disturbing. Finnick plays the most horrible person in the entire history of the world in this movie, and like, it's really jarring to see that actor play someone like that. But just when you think this movie's not gonna go there, like, it goes there. And I can see the importance of like showcasing what reality looked like and like how that looked and how horrible that was, but is it worth the amount of violence shown? I don't know. I'm like still deciding, and you can decide for yourself. Not recommended for movie night. In no universe is this a movie night movie. The original Speak No Evil, when I watched it, I was so scared and horrified, and it does such an incredible job at luring you into like this false sense of like comfort, and you think you know what's gonna happen, and then it goes into this crazy, violent, tragic, awful situation that's so entertaining to watch. So annoying because it has a fucking remake, and I was so angry when I saw the remake because they spoiled the entire twist of the movie in the trailer. But then also, from what I've heard, Whispering in the Winds, they basically just flipped the entire meaning of the movie on its head and made it like an uplifting horror action story. But that's not what this movie's about. I think I just have to include it because the original deserves its flowers. The remake can suck my farts. I'm not watching that. But the way the original movie ends is so awful and disturbing. And the entire movie is about like, don't be a people pleaser, like stand up for yourself, get out of situations that are scary. But it's just a really fun ride when you don't know what's going to happen. And if you're one of the very few, very lucky ones who don't know what happens in this movie, seriously go watch it if you like horror. It's so scary. So that's my most updated, most disturbing movies list. You can judge me for having some of these on here that you think are more disturbing. These are just the ones that really affected me, to be completely honest. But as always, like, watch films at your own risk. There's no evidence that you're going to get brain damage or something bad's gonna happen to you, but it is like heavy. Some of these are really heavy. And thank you for watching if you stayed till the end. Love you so much. And I'm sorry I went missing for a month. Everybody knows I got my wisdom teeth taken out and I could only eat soft foods for like 3 weeks. But then I had a week of normalcy, and then I sat on the street for an Instagram photo, and some kind of poop or something that I was touching, and like I posted a photo, you can see me touching the ground. Something I touched gave me a viral disease called, I think it's viral gastroenteritis or something. It's a stomach bug that you get from other people's bodily fluids. And I got that from someone's bodily fluid on the street, and I was so fucked up for a week. I've never been so sick in my life. I was so sick. I had Cars 3 on the TV because I watched Cars, every one of the Cars. I watched every animated movie possible. I was brain dead. I couldn't work. And my stomach is just now kind of back to normal. Can't drink coffee yet. I was throwing up everything that wasn't saltine crackers, and I was even throwing up toast. But I think I'm back to normal. I can eat everything except for coffee. But it's so weird because like my taste buds have completely changed. I have weird cravings for things that I don't usually have cravings for. Usually I'm more of like a chocolates girl and desserts girl, and now I like gummies and candy more. It's just weird, but yeah, I could literally just sip the scissor for a month straight. No solid food for the longest time. So I was kind of going through something. I'm back now, and thank you for sticking around. Thank you for watching. And yeah, happy Pride Month. Be who you are.